And I think we are ready to go. We are exactly at the hour. So let's start with our webinar about RFID at the point of sale. This is the fourth webinar in the series. So if you have missed out on the previous webinars, feel free to check them out on our website. But for now, let's first dive deeper into why you should use RFID at the point of sale. And before we do so, let's have a quick introduction of ourselves. I'm Steffi Broere. I'm the Global Customer Success Manager at NeedApp, which means I want to make sure that our customers are able to use our products and know how to use our products in the right way. So I want to make sure they fully understand the use cases for RFID and how it applies in their situation. And today we have two featuring guests who are Hilbert Dijkstra and Tjibbe van der Laan. And maybe you can also take a minute to briefly introduce yourself, starting with Hilbert.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Hilbert Dijkstra. I'm working from our Boston office, and I work a lot with North American retailers and helping them with their RFID roadmap, of which often the point of sale is a very interesting read point. So happy to talk more about that today.
Thanks, over to you, Hilbert. And Tjibbe?
Thanks, Hilbert. My name is Tjibbe van der Laan. I'm a product manager of NeedApp's RFID stock management solution. And as product manager, I'm heavily involved in the development of features of our product. I'm in close contact with retailers and brands to discuss their processes and needs, which is used as input for design specification of new features and services. And today I'm here to give some detailed explanation of one of the concepts we're talking about. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks a lot, Tjibbe. So then, moving on. We have a few house rules so that we can structure this webinar in the right way. So first of all, the timing of this webinar will take about 25 minutes to cover the contents of this webinar, after which there will be time for a Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can send them in via the Q&A button that you can find at the bottom of your screen. And next to the Q&A, we will also have some polls. And when a poll pops up on your screen, feel free to answer the poll to what you think is the most suitable answer for your situation. We will record this webinar, and the recordings will be shared on our website. So if you feel like a colleague should also see the recording, or if you want to see a recording of a previous webinar, feel free to check out our website. We will also send the link to the website in a follow-up email after this webinar. And of course, if you like these webinars, feel free to also let us know or let colleagues know so that they can join in the next time as well. And with that being said, I would like to move on to the content of today. So what we will be covering today. First, we will dive deeper into the use cases of RFID at the POS, after which we will show 3 options of how you can start using RFID at your point of sale, which are the RFID reader, the serialized barcode, and calculated stock. And afterwards, we will still dive deeper into the business impact, also with a bit of an outlook onto how you could use RFID at the point of sale in the situation we're in today. And with the situation we're in today, I want to stress that these webinars are here provided to you by NeedApp, but this is not necessarily just to show who we are. We really want to make sure that we share the information that can help you in these uncertain times. So we have quite some experience with RFID, especially in the retail world. We've been around with the RFID technology for a while, and we see great value if customers know better how to use RFID in their situation. So take this as a learning opportunity, and if you have any other questions related to RFID, know where to find us, and hopefully we can guide you a few steps further when it comes to the technology and the use of it. So let's start deeper into the use cases that we see for RFID at the point of sale right now. Oh, first we have a first poll of today, which is, are you already using RFID at the point of sale? And the answer options are quick and easy. Either yes, I am already using it, or no, not yet, we're looking into it. And I see a lot of answers coming in. That's great to see. We'll take a couple more seconds for everyone to fill out the poll. And there are still a few answers on the way. Perfect. I'll end the poll and share the results with you. And as we see here is that 72% of you are still looking into RFID at the point of sale and are not using it yet. But we also see some participants today that are already using RFID at the point of sale. So maybe you're here to reevaluate your options or see what else you can do with the point of sale. We are happy to enlighten you a bit more on that. So let's dive deeper into the use cases of RFID at the point of sale. What we often see with RFID in a retail environment is that our retailers start with cycle counting. Often by RFID providers, the approach is to have a cycle count to improve stock accuracy, then increase product availability, which will lead to a sales increase. But in our world nowadays, that's no longer enough. We want to see real-time stock, and we want to have real-time stock visibility. And what does that exactly mean? That means that you always know where a product is situated at any point of the day. And to do so, you would need to cover all of the flows of goods. So we see goods flowing into a store, out of a store, flowing even from the stock room to the sales floor of a store, so from back of store to front of store. And we need to capture those streams of goods in order to know exactly where a good is located. And that will lead to real-time stock. And what we see then is that the point of sale is actually one of the most important streams of good, because in the end, all the goods that end up in a store should leave ideally via the point of sale, which means they are sold. So the point of sale is a very important step to creating this real-time stock visibility. But what then is a benefit of real-time stock visibility is, for example, that you can refill your items more accurately. So that moves to the first use case of RFID, which is real-time item refill. When you know which good is sold, you can immediately replenish it if you still have the good on stock. So you can always have the store layout with all the goods available in a real-time world. Another use case is mobile and self-checkout. With RFID at the point of sale, customers are able to scan the product themselves and pay for it themselves in a secure way. And of course, that's very important, especially if you want to enhance customer experience and don't want them to wait any longer at the point of sale with a traditional point of sale. Next to that, it has some security benefits. A big use case we see is the use of RFID for your electronic article surveillance. So from a loss prevention perspective, you can use RFID labels, and once a product is sold, the database will know whether a product is sold or not, and based on that, alarm gates at the end of your store can alarm or not. So that provides a great use case for RFID at the end of store, at the exit of the store. Next to that, it can also help in combating return fraud. As we know, the RFID point of sale can mark in the database whether a product is sold. That also means when a return comes in, you can check whether the product has actually been sold or if it had been stolen. And then in combination with having a receipt or not, you can easily tackle return fraud, which can often be challenging in the current environment. Another big use case is the efficiency of RFID at the point of sale. What we see is that with RFID technology, you can allow for bulk reading, which makes the point of sale a lot quicker because you can read more items at the same time, and it's still accurate because each item has a unique identifier. So that means you can have a fast checkout, but still having it accurate. And the last use case we see is privacy, which is something we've already discussed in a previous webinar on myths in RFID myths debunked. There, our colleague Danny discussed that you can comply easily with privacy regulations if you have RFID at the point of sale because the reading strength of a label can be adjusted. So if you have more interest in that use case, we also invite you to rewatch that webinar so you can get a bit more detailed information on that. And now, before we move on, let's have another poll to find out which use case is most interesting to you. So a poll should be on your screen right now, and I'll list the options once more. So which use case do you believe is most interesting to you in your situation? Is that the option to have real-time item refill? Is that the possibility for mobile and self-checkout? Is it the use of RFID for EAS? Is it to combat return fraud? Do you want a fast checkout? Or is it that you want to comply with privacy regulations? And we'll take a couple more seconds for everyone to fill out this poll. I see some people are still filling it out. That's great to see. We can end the poll and share the results. And what we see here is that there's quite a diverse answer, but what really jumps out is the real-time item refill and mobile and self-checkout possibilities. So let's now move on to see which solution works best to fulfill these use cases. And for that, I would like to hand over to Hilbert.
Thank you, Steffi. So what we will do first is we will explore a little bit what the different options are that you have at your point of sale. And then later in the webinar, we will map those on the use cases we just discussed. So we saw that there was quite a variety in what you find important, which use case is most important for you. And that will also determine which option is best for you to use at the point of sale. So before we get there, we want to briefly identify the 3 different options that we see for covering or combining the point of sale data with RFID data. So the first option is an RFID reader. And you can do that with different types of readers. So in the picture you see over here, we identify 2 different readers. So the first one is a tabletop reader. It's a reader that you can mount underneath the desk at the point of sale to register the items that are being scanned at the point of sale. Second one is a hybrid barcode RFID reader. So it's a reader that you can use both to identify the label using the barcode plus the RFID reader. So that's the first option. Then the second option is a serialized barcode. So we see a picture of an RFID label here, of a price ticket that contains RFID. So you can see that with the RFID logo or the EPC logo on the right top of the label, but on the left top of the label, you see a serialized barcode. So that's also something you can use to identify which unique item you sell at the point of sale. We'll go a little bit more detail on this in this later. And then the third option is combining item level information with RFID level information. And that's what we do with calculated stock. And that's something my colleague Chibbe will explain you more about. So let's have a look at the first option, the RFID reader at the point of sale. So as I mentioned, you can use this reader at the point of sale to read the content that's stored in the RFID label. So you will read the SG-TIN that's stored in the label. I think one thing that's quite important to consider here is that there is an integration to your point of sale needed. You need to make sure that the point of sale understands this EPC, this SG-TIN that is being read from that label, and is able to identify what items they need for that to complete the transaction. So they need to be able to get the GTIN out of that. And then also send the complete transaction over to your RFID platform to have that integration. So there's an integration to your point of sale needed. If that integration is in place, you can then mark that SG-TIN as sold once the transaction is completed. But I think the second thing you need to consider, beside the change to your point of sale software, you also need to invest in RFID hardware at each point of sale. So it is a change needed in the software and there's a hardware needed, but it's a very robust and very complete integration. And then the second option is a serialized barcode. And we'll briefly go into a little bit more detail on the technicalities behind RFID data and the difference between GTIN and SG-TIN. So if this is too technical, if I'm going too fast, please ask a question in the Q&A. But if you look at those two t-shirts are identical. They are both black t-shirts in the medium size. So therefore they have the same GTIN. The GTIN is the global trade item number and is related to the EAN, which we most often use in Europe, or the UPC, which is most often used in North America. So if you want to make these items uniquely identifiable, you want to add a serial number. So for instance, you add the serial number 1234 or 1235. So now these items are suddenly unique. They have a serialized component. So we call these serialized GTINs, as GTINs. And you can store that in an EPC. You can store that as GTIN in an RFID label. But besides storing that as GTIN, that serialized GTIN in an RFID label, you can also store this serialized item, the serialized component, in a serialized barcode. There are quite a few options that you can use, but we highlight 3 different options in this slide. So we highlight the composite barcode, the 2D data matrix, and the GS1 digital link. So the composite barcode looks a lot like a normal barcode, but on top of that normal barcode, there is a serialized component added. So the code, the serial component, 1234, is added on top of the existing barcode. Then the second option is a 2D data matrix. And this is combining both the GTIN and the serial component in one new barcode, which is a 2D barcode. It's a quite small barcode and can therefore very easily be added to your existing label layout. And the third option is a GS1 digital link, which looks a lot like the 2D data matrix. It contains both the GTIN plus the serialized component, but there's a third component that is added there, and that's a URL. So this is an option that if you want to stimulate consumer interaction with your products, for instance, you can link this QR code, this digital link, to your website. So when a consumer comes into your store and they scan this product, you can then redirect them to your website to tell them more about the product. And also you can use this code at your point of sale to mark this item as sold. The third option is the calculated stock option. And to tell you more about this, I would like to invite Chibbe to join me and to go in a bit more detail on this.
Thank you, Hilbert. So let me talk you through the calculated stock concept. Calculated stock bridges between RFID and regular barcode information. As already explained by Hilbert, there is an important difference how products are distinguished in the RFID world versus the barcode world. In the RFID world, we distinguish a unique item of a product by making use of the serialized GTIN. And in the barcode world, we are not able to distinguish a unique item. We are only able to distinguish the SKU by means of an UPC AN code. And this can be globally, worldwide described by a GTIN, which is the abbreviation of Global Trade Item Number. So these worlds are fundamentally different since they refer to an item on a different abstraction level. Calculated stock is a tool which brings these worlds together so that also sales and returns on barcode level can be informed to the RFID platform. As a result, the barcode transaction at the point of sale are integrated with your RFID solution without the need of changing hardware or software at the point of sale. So what does that bring? Calculated stock makes it possible to have RFID stock information available at any time of the day, not only after you've performed an RFID count in the store. This RFID information is, for example, used for in-store refill applications. Since the RFID stock data contains information of both the stockroom and the sales floor, the RFID platform is able to give replenishment suggestions based on the stock available in that store. The refill feature shows a prioritized list of suggestions informing staff which products are missing on the sales floor but available on the stockroom. Since these features gives a quick overview of the missing items, it is very easy for staff to make sure that all important sizes are on shelf. And next to that, calculated stock can be used to optimize your omnichannel operations. And next to the sales transaction made at the physical point of sale in your store, this tool can also be used for web orders, for example, which are fulfilled in the store. The calculated stock data can give them a real-time view of the available stock in both stockroom and sales floor, making sure that the item that you would like to fulfill from your web shop is actually available and not picked at this moment in time by a customer who is walking, for example, to the point of sale. So by introducing calculated stock, RFID data can be used at any time of the day, not only after an RFID count, which is the case if you do not have the point of sale integrated. So now the question is, how does that work? How does Calculate Stock bridge these two worlds together? Yeah, since the RFID world is fundamentally different than the barcode world, we keep track of all barcode transactions and deduct these transactions from the RFID stock. This deduction, this subtraction, requires a calculation, which is the reason why the term calculated stock is used. So how does this calculation work? The tool keeps track of all barcode transactions at the point of sale since the last full RFID count has been performed. For example, let's say that on Sunday evening, we performed an RFID count in the store, and we observed that 4 items of a specific t-shirt has been found in the stockroom, and 2 items of that shirt has been counted on the sales floor. Later on Monday, we sold 4 items, 4 pieces of this t-shirt on Monday. These first 2 sales on Monday are subtracted from the sales floor, since there are 2 items available. And after these 2 sales, no items are left on the sales floor, so the remaining 2 sales are subtracted from the stockroom. We do this, so this is a small assumption. We are not sure if that item is really sold from the stockroom or from the sales floor, but we assume it, and that helps, that makes it possible to have calculated stock and have RFID stock available at any moment in time. So one of the key benefits is that integrating the point of sale with your RFID platform is that you can make use of RFID stock at any moment of the time, of any moment of the day. And the big benefit of calculated stock is that you only need barcode-based sales data to do so. And it's data which is already available. Yeah, so that's it for calculated stock. Steffi will now take it over and give you an overview of all the topics that we discussed.
Yes, thanks a lot, Hilbert and Chiba, for the elaborate discussion of how the 3 options work. I can imagine that it's quite a lot of information if you're hearing this for one of the first times. So let's put them next to each other in the following table. Starting with calculated stock. As Chiba said, it's a great use case to enable real-time stock and refill. But apart from that, it does not tick all the boxes. So if the real-time component is really important to you, the benefit is that it has a relatively low complexity to integrate because you can already use the existing data you have. You need to just make sure that it integrates well with your RFID software provider, but that's merely a sales data integration. The capital investment is next to none if you are with an RFID solution provider that incorporates this, which is generally not at any cost. So then we look at the serialized barcode, where we see that there are a lot of use cases, except for 2 use cases that are not unlocked, which are the privacy setting and the speed and accuracy is a little bit doubtful. First, the privacy setting is not tackled completely because the chip itself cannot be changed with a serialized barcode. So the settings of the chip and therefore the reading strength cannot be adjusted if you use a serialized barcode. And the speed of the point of sale does not become much quicker because you still need to scan each serialized barcode individually, and it does not allow for bulk reading, which you can do with, for example, an RFID reader. From a complexity side, it's still relatively low level of complexity, but the capital investment is relatively a bit higher because you need to make sure, of course, that every label has this serialized barcode. And if you're just starting with RFID, it can be an easy step to take and a simple add-on. But if you're already using RFID and you don't have a serialized barcode on your product labels, then it can be quite a challenge to, and quite an investment actually, to change all of that around and to include a serialized barcode on everything. Looking at the RFID reader, we see that it ticks all the boxes. So it allows for bulk reading, which also tackles the speed at the point of sale. You can adjust the settings of the chip, which also unlocks the privacy settings, and all the other boxes are also ticked. But what we see is that it's the most complex solution and also the most expensive solution because you need to invest a lot in hardware. And still, the integration is relatively robust. So like Hilbert also explained, it's not impossible. It just simply is a bit of a higher intensity when you want to invest in it. So what we try to say with this is not that any option is better than the other, but it depends a lot on the use cases you want to unlock. So what we often, for example, see if that a retailer wants to move really quick and want to have real-time stock the quickest possible, they often start with calculated stock, but then also start looking into one of the other options to make sure that in the end they can also unlock more use cases. So what we try to tell you, please look at your specific situation and what you are actually looking for and what your budget is, because then you can make a selection to what's the best fitting solution. So now that you have all the knowledge on which options there are, let's have a quick poll on which option is most attractive to you. Is that the RFID reader? Is that the serialized barcode? Or would that be the calculated stock solution? We take a couple more seconds for everyone to fill out the poll. I see most of you have already filled it out. I'll take a few more seconds to see if the final people also fill it out. Yes, that's great to see. Let's end the poll and share the results with you. What we see here is that 55% of you actually is really interested into the RFID reader, which is great to see because of course it's a very comprehensive solution. But we also see that some people are still interested in the serialized barcode and some still interested in calculated stock. So I think this also shows that there is a use case for each solution and that it really depends on your own situation. And of course, if you have more questions to how it can apply into your situation, feel free to ask in the Q&A, but also to contact us directly if you want to really dig deeper into your situation. And now let's move back to Hilbert once more with an outlook of how we can use RFID at the point of sale in a situation we are faced with nowadays.
Yeah, thank you, Steffi. First of all, it's very interesting to see that we have such a variety in responses to which use cases or which option is most interesting. But we also think that RFID at the point of sale will become more relevant after or during this Corona crisis. And I think there's two elements that we see as a change coming up in retail and the way your consumers shop that will impact this. So the first one is being physical distancing. So the experience in the store will change. People will minimize the interaction with other customers, but also probably minimize the interaction with your staff. And of course, social distancing or physical distancing is I think, a hot term at this moment. But also because of that, I think people will go less to your stores and will shop more online. But also new concepts like curbside pickup, ship from store is not necessarily new, but I think that's something that the adoption of those concepts will increase. And therefore, covering RFID at your point of sale in your stores becomes more important. First of all, you can avoid queuing by introducing mobile checkout solutions, but you still want to do that in a secure way. So by combining, for instance, a serialized barcode option, and to combine that with your RFID solution, you can really provide a safe shopping experience for your consumers, but also do it in such a way that you still do that in a secure way. This will also reduce the need for the people in the store to wait in line for the checkout. So again, it's also a way of crowd control in your store. And the second option is your store operations. So by using RFID at your point of sale, so using an RFID reader at the point of sale, you can speed up the transaction. So again, offering an experience to your consumers where they don't have to wait very long to complete a transaction and minimize the interaction, minimize the time they need to wait in line. And the third option, I think Chibis already spoke about this, is the omnichannel fulfillment. So in order to offer curbside pickup, in order to offer ship from store or buy online pickup in store, it is important that you have a high accuracy about what is available in your store. And not only if it is available in your store, but also where it is available in your store. So we really think about the world where you know what is available in the back of house and that you only unlock the stock that's in the back of house for your ship from store concepts. So that availability on sub-location information will really optimize and streamline your omnichannel concepts that you're already implementing or that you consider to implement in the future. And we also see that the introduction of these concepts is now really being accelerated. So I think that's maybe to also put this in the light of Corona.
Thanks a lot, Hilbert. And that marks the end of this webinar. Before we move on to part of the Q&A, we want to highlight that we have another webinar coming up next week about loss prevention, which also might answer some of your loss prevention related questions about RFID at the and your electronic article surveillance. So if you have any interest in that, you can find the registration on our website, together with the recordings of our previous webinars, and this recording will also be posted there. But as I mentioned before, you will also receive a follow-up email if you attended this webinar live. So thank you everyone for participating, and also a big thank you to Hilbert and Tjibbe for today.